I know how tiring healing can be. You come to know, or I invite you to know that this is coming, that it really is kind of like this. And when you're in a slump with your healing or in what feels like a lower point, rest and recover and just be present with that, because you'll be called to do it more and more. You'll be called to release more and more. But when you're in the fatigue of your healing, don't fight through it and try to super heal, and don't try to work on yourself even more to push through. That's when you're in recovery mode. That's when you're in rest mode. So give that space to yourself. Welcome to Deeply Well, a soft place to land on your journey. A podcast for those that are curious, creative, and ready to expand in higher consciousness and self-care. This is where we heal. This is where we transcend. Welcome back to Deeply Well. I am Devi Brown. I have to say, first and foremost, we're going to have a good check-in this episode. I have so many thoughts on so many things that are happening. I'm going to share a little bit of my current journey with you, but I also just want to say thank you so much to everyone that has been DMing me with get well soon wishes. It has just meant the world. I have been reading just some of the kindest, most thoughtful, sweetest things, and just really beautiful intention. People have voice noted me prayers, which is just like, expanding my spirit and my heart. So from the deepest part of me, just thank you so much for everyone that listens to this show or connects with my work in some way, that has reached out, that has been following along with the physical medical journey that I have been on this season of the show. So love y'all so much, and feeling deeply seen and deeply grateful. So I guess let's start there. All right, y'all. Life lately. So where do I even begin? And it's so interesting, just the timing of all of this. It's so spiritually fascinating and spiritually aligned. But right as I'm getting ready to birth my book, Living in Wisdom, which is available for pre-order now and available everywhere in the world, April 22nd, 2025, and on Audible, all the places. This book was in my body and in my spirit for over 5 years to write. And it took me 2 years to write it. And, in the midst of that time, so much life was happening, so much healing was happening. And then so much of writing a book is kind of being in the waiting game, right? Like you might announce your book 2 years before it sees the light of day, because there's certain production deadlines, marketing deadlines, figuring out the right time to release it. So my book has been like done, ready to go for about a year. And now I'm so excited. It shall be here soon. But it's been really interesting kind of settling into this injury that I have and this surgery that I had to have, and kind of looking at the universe like, why is this happening? I had all this time. Why is this happening a few weeks before I'm meant to go on a book tour, meant to share, some of the deepest parts of my heart and the deepest parts of my work with the world? And so I want to share some really beautiful insights I've been having around that, around the beauty in pain and the patience that can be found in pain, that I want to expand in on this episode. But all right, we're in it. So for those that have been following along, I have been really wrestling. I live with chronic pain, and I have for several decades. Chronic back pain, neck pain, some chronic injuries since childhood. And so physical pain has been a part of my life since I can remember. And for those that are also on this journey, which so much love to those that are also on this journey, it's a very specific kind of journey to be on when you live with chronic pain. One that is very hard to understand sometimes by people that may not be their road to learning. But pain has been a big teacher in my life in many, 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 many ways. And physical pain has been one of them. And so when you have physical pain, chronic pain, when you also are someone that has bared witness to a lot of hard things, or have had a lot of complex lived experiences, you also take on quite a resilience that grows your pain tolerance. I have always known that I have had a pretty astronomical pain tolerance, and I can sit on the bottom of the ocean at any time with anyone. And so this last year has been really transformative for me. And I've been expressing this, I think, in some ways on the show over time, but learning what that really is on a spiritual level and knowing that now is my time, thanks entirely to the guidance of God, that now is my time to challenge my beliefs and my experiences that I've had with and around physical pain. So being on a healing journey is so astounding for so many reasons, and it's just so faceted and so incredibly beautiful to be present with, because you will find that you are constantly invited to witness and review and challenge certain things that you have learned and released, but in new dimensions and in new facets of your life. And I've shared this before, when God brings you to a healing, when the universe brings you to a healing, you will be invited to then revisit and be in practice with that healing in all the categories of your life that it may show up, right? And so for many, many years, I have been in deep initiation with healing emotional pain, with healing spiritual pain and karmic pain. Those have been massive themes in my life for eons and for many years in this lifetime. And now I'm being asked to get into the fibers of the healing of my physical pains. And it's been really beautiful to be in that. A lot of curiosity for it. It's been hard too, and challenging, draining, painful, but beautiful to be in the observation of my physical pain when healing emotional pain and spiritual pain and mental pain is no longer something that is present. So there is a clarity, there is an opening, there is a deeper presence within which I'm being invited to be with my body now that some of that other work not only is done, but has been dissolved. So that's been feeling special. And I kind of say this now with this much description, because I know how tiring healing can be. And for those that connect with this show and that are on their own journey, you come to know, or I invite you to know that this is coming, that it really is kind of like this. And when you're in a slump with your healing or in what feels like a lower point, rest and recover and just be present with that, because you'll be called to do it more and more. You'll be called to release more and more. But when you're in the fatigue of your healing, don't fight through it and try to super heal, and don't try to work on yourself even more to push through. That's when you're in recovery mode. That's when you're in rest mode. So give that space to yourself, and then know that you'll be invited to explore it again and again in all the ways. And I think eventually you come into a space of it being really purely observational, and you get to learn through observation of self or others, and you don't always have to learn through firsthand experience. But the firsthand learning is always first. So this year and this season of the show, part of what I have been working through as someone who has had lifelong chronic pain and autoimmune is that I've been learning my limits in new ways, especially as this beautifully bloomed, healed, present version of myself. And so about 5 years ago, I retained an injury in my left shoulder. And I remember being in pain at the time, like a lot of pain, for many weeks, many months after this injury happened to me, took place. And it was it was the very beginning of the pandemic. And I had a just turned 2-year-old. And as someone that is used to always being challenged and kind of pushing through physical pain and not really talking about it, because those on this journey know at some point it gets exhausting for other people to hear about. It's present in your body every second of every day, but at a certain point, there's no need to talk about it anymore, bring it up, especially when you know you can't do anything to change it per se, or you just see kind of on the faces or in the attitudes of people in your life that, they've heard it a lot. And so you just hold it in and you keep moving, and people don't know. And so many people in my life never knew that I had this battle that would sometimes mean that I have to cancel things, or I can't show up, I can't come. I think in younger versions of my life, this was confusing for me and others because there were a couple projections from some people in my younger life that, not being out in the club or on the scene was, me being above or aloof or whatever people think about whatever. And it was really just, you may not know that, like, I'm in a lot of pain today and I can't put those shoes on, or I can't be out without kind of suffering a little, so I'll stay in. And so when I got that injury 5 years ago, I was in a lot of pain and I couldn't fully use this arm, but I just kept going. And you couldn't really get into doctors at the time because it was the pandemic. So life passes on. I learned to ice it regularly and move on. And then eventually your body overcompensates and the injury becomes different, or the flare-ups become less and less, and you move on. So I fit this shoulder injury into the system of my body, which says, yeah, so every day you have a little pain, keep going, and forgot all about it. This past November, which I talked about on this show, I had a massive, massive, massive flare-up in my body. And it happened through a workout I was doing, and it was only holding a 10-pound weight, but I felt something change in my body, and now the pain was back. And it was back worse than I could ever imagine. Like, there was so little I could do with this arm. And so I started using a lot of my biohacking. I started getting regular infrared light therapy on this arm, regular acupuncture just on this shoulder. I started going to a rehab facility and trying to meet this need on my own. And it helped a lot. It gave me the movement back in my arm. So then I was like, all right, I'm back at it. I'm going to go. And then this past November, when I was actually going to Mexico to speak at Summit, I got hit with this deep wave of exhaustion and so much pain in my back and in my shoulder that I lost the ability to walk for a few days. And so I was grounded in Mexico and I couldn't leave. And I had to just recover. I had to surrender to recovering in another country and finding childcare for my son and figuring it out. And so what was really revolutionary about that moment for me was it was the first time that I was like, time to lock back into Western medicine. I hadn't gone to really any Western doctors with the exception of my OBGYN when my son was born in over a decade. And so I reached out to friends. I kind of put the signal up, I need help. And I got in with a lot of specialists. So I got in with a pain specialist, with a back specialist, with a shoulder specialist, with a new doctor. And the last several months, I've just been in and out of different testings and getting different information about my injuries and about my body. And I won't get into all the particulars of all the things. It's just too much. But I got a lot of answers. I got a lot of answers that have shaken me, but have also been I'm just thrilled to have a name for things. I'm just thrilled to know more about things. And there's been a lot of grief and healing that has come through that. But it's actually been really inspiring for me. And so a couple months ago, I went and I finally got all the MRIs I needed on my bones, my spine, and on my shoulder. And what the findings were was that on this left shoulder, I had a full tear through my rotator cuff. And so I was going to need to go in, get some muscle grafting done, get some bone shavings done, and get, a real repair here. And I went in for surgery nearly 2 weeks ago and did just that. I had the surgery that I needed. My doctor said I needed to get it pretty quickly. He felt very strongly that I should not go on my book tour without getting this because it was deteriorating quite a bit, and that it may be harder or get a greater injury if I decided to do that. So, obviously, everything happens for a reason, and I believe in divine alignment. Nothing for me will miss me, but it is kind of a heavy load if you have been planning for something for a year, and then all of that has to change, like right leading up to it, like a few weeks before it kicks off. It has to change, and you have to kind of get prepared to really focus on something else. So that's kind of been where my head is. And what has been really interesting in the healing of this, which has brought so much grace for myself, is I had my follow-up appointment with my surgeon, and he had all the images printed out for me, right? Which I'm like, ew, gross. Like, I don't want to see the inside of my shoulder. And one of the things that he said to me, and mind you, for those that follow sports, like this is like a season-ending injury. And I'm like, I'm a meditation teacher. Why do I have a season-ending injury in my body? But when he was walking me through the images and talking to me about how surgery went, one of the things that he said was that this is one of the worst cases of this injury that he's seen. And he went on to show me images of how bad this injury was. And it was gnarly. Like I had a huge hole, in my tissues and in my muscles. I was completely detached. And, something he said to me is like, how have you just been living with this? Like, when did this pain first start? And I'm like, 5 years ago. And he was like, how have you been living like this? And it was just so interesting to have that reflected back to me, and to kind of, really think of that it did not occur to me to rest. It did not occur to me to get bigger medical treatment. It did not occur to me to really seek help. It's just my instant feeling was more pain. You know what to do with this. Add it to the list, keep going, right? And so just like the kind of validation of someone else kind of looking at you and being like, woman, what is going on? And, you have such a gentle life. Like, why were you carrying this load? But surgery went well, and I'm healing, and I will have this sling on for my book tour, which I did not want, but it's here. And I'm just grateful to be healing. I think full recovery will be like right around the 6-month mark, and it's beautiful. And one of the things that was coming to me, I was talking to one of my best friends, Pastor John Gray. For those that are familiar, incredible pastor, wonderful, wonderful person, and one of my dearest friends for well over a decade. We talked, and he prayed for me the day after surgery. And I remember walking into my conversation with him, I said, okay, I was like, John, my prayer to God is accelerated healing. Like, I know how to heal, and I have all the biohacking tools. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm getting acupuncture every 2 days, la, 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 la. And I was like, accelerated healing. I will be, on my book tour like this. And by the end of our conversation, John said, okay, God has given me a word. And I want you to know that God said this will not be an accelerated healing. This healing is going to be harder than you think, and it's going to take as much time as they said. It's not going to be faster, but it's necessary. It's so necessary. And he went on to share other beautiful, powerful things with me about why this moment of rest is so necessary for me, which felt very special. And when he said that, there was a freedom. There was a freedom in knowing that I will instantly surrender into patience. Because as he said that, as he said to me, this will not be an accelerated healing. You will not blow through this quickly. It's going to take what it takes. The first thought that came to me was, wow, God, that is so fair. That is so fair of you, God. And like, wow, what a privilege it is to heal in the time that I'm being told I'll heal in, right? Like, even if that's outside of my quote unquote perceived window or outside of my preference, like I'm being told I will be healed in this time. And like the miraculous nature of that, how blessed am I to be able to heal from this injury at all, and to have my shoulder. And I just felt in such deep gratitude for my body. And I think sometimes for those that live with chronic pain or have had substantial injuries or surgeries, sometimes there is this first feeling of defeat and this natural depression that comes in when you can't use things the way that you're used to using them, or you can't be yourself in the way that you're used to being yourself. Because one thing that cannot be overstated is being in pain does change you. It changes your personality. It changes who you're able to be with other people. It is this constant running noise that is going on in your body. It's like having all the apps open and no one else knows they're open, but they're going and they're draining the battery, and they're processing anyways. And so I was thinking, like, my God, like my God, my beautiful shoulder, like you had a severe injury that was shocking to your surgeon, and you showed up for me every day. Like, these are the shoulders my son sat on top of for years. These are the shoulders that lifted him, that lifted my groceries out of the car and into the house. These are the shoulders that supported my arms and hands and being able to do energy work on people I love. These are the shoulders that supported my mudras and my namaste poses as I meditated for the peace of my life and my body and for my joy. And these are the shoulders that allow me to share beautiful, deep hugs with the people I'm able to hold in my arms, or the people that are able to hold me. And these are the shoulders that were built to support and hold so many things and experiences. And it's just like really deepened my reverence for my own body, for my own body. And it's so interesting, because whenever I think any of us are sick, especially if you catch something like the flu or a stomach virus, something more than the common cold, something that sits you down for a little bit, even if it's just a day, there is this like immense relief and gratitude that comes in once that lifts, right? Like once you're out of this cold, or once whatever, the situation is, once that bug passes, it's kind of like, I can be myself again. I can think again. I can feel again, the quiet after the storm. And noticing and allowing sometimes that depression or that confusion about the pain to come in and be just that. There's so much power in that. The first few days, and again, because she was delusional, honey. When I came home from surgery, I literally thought I would be on a flight to Miami a couple days later. Like, I had all these plans of making it to a friend's event that they invited me to in Miami. And I was like, yeah, I'll be on a plane in a couple days, back to work by surgery Monday, back to work by Wednesday. Not in, y'all know me, not in no girl boss kind of way or anything like that, but just, yeah, I think I can take some Zoom meetings by Wednesday. I think I can wrap my brain around things and, have some responses. And then you come home and you're like, no, there's nothing more important than sleep, than eating good foods, than doing absolutely nothing and surrendering into the patience of that, because there is nothing more important than I could or should be doing right now than listening to my body and being patient with my body and letting it heal from, a 3 to 4 hour surgery. And so, yeah, I was finding gratitude in new ways. I've been talking with friends a lot, as someone that became a teacher because of the path of pain. Pain has been my teacher in so many ways in life. And I've had a lot of dark teachers too, and experiences with harder energies and people to lead me to light and to lead me to my journey as a healer. And I've been talking with friends about, we can learn through anything. And I think what's so important, especially if you have been on a path of pain as the teacher, the power of transcending that form of learning into being able to learn through the twinkle of an eye, or learn through joy, or learn through observation. That is the profound rite of passage that happens once you have learned enough in that way and get to step into a new path. But honestly, for the seasons that any of us are in a learning through pain's undefeated as a teacher. Pain is profound. And what I've come to understand is that one of the reasons pain can sometimes be a more catalytic or complete or potent teacher than joy is because pain is so faceted. Like, pain is so faceted in what we can glean from it and where we can uncover it and how we can learn from it. For example, in this experience of healing with my shoulder and pain, and again, in this chapter, I am learning how to understand pain in a new way through my physicality and through my biology and through my surrender to what the biological makeup of my body is. I'm also getting the glimpse of learning about pain in a couple new ways, right? I haven't had major surgery before. I had a deviated septum at some point many years ago, but that wasn't like a major surgery, and it wasn't a surgery that like changed anything visually. And the recovery was, for me, very, very simple and easy. But I got to learn now what the pain of surgery is, what the pain of this kind of recovery is, what the pain of patience with my physical body is. I'm given the chance to learn specifically what like bone pain feels like, which is something, oh, take your breath away, entirely different, my God. Because in what they did with me, you drill into the bone, right? And you have a lot of nerve pain connected. I got to learn what it feels like to be on an opioid, right? They prescribed some really hardcore stuff for me for the first few days, and I got to know what it felt like to be in that. Because as an observer, though I've heard all the stories of people that become dependent on opioids and what a huge, huge issue it is for so many, I don't know what that feels like. And I didn't know why someone would like that or want that until this moment, right? Until feeling like the depths of the pain and then the kind of complete numbness and slight euphoria you get from certain things, and where that takes you and what that does, and why someone who maybe hadn't yet been able to do some of the inner work could be so drawn to replicating that feeling even at their own demise over and over again. Like, I get to learn so that I can serve, right? Like, for many years, I could speak to emotional pain. I could speak to, again, mental, spiritual pain, observational pain. And now I get to speak to this particular type of pain to anyone I meet on the path, that it may be useful for us to be in community in that way. And so when I was talking to my friend, I was just like, oh my God is so brilliant. You know, God, the lessons are so brilliant and faceted if you let them. And when you let them, you also give yourself the opportunity to dip in and dip out, right? Because I'm choosing to be present in however this is manifesting for me right now, which I cannot overstate. I'm having reverence for my experience, and I'm sharing my experience. And I also know, in comparison to some of the much harsher and harder things that are going on in humanity right now, or some of the things that some people may be facing with their illnesses and with their bodies, this is a blip on the radar, right? This is a tiny, tiny pebble in comparison to some of the ways that this may be presenting for some of us. But this is my teacher right now, and so I'm present with it, and I'm trying to get as much out of it as I can. And that's another thing that I've learned, is that when we allow ourselves to be present with whatever is the full truth of the moment, and we stay awake to it and aware to it, we get to learn by dipping in and dipping out. I get to learn about and begin to be very curious about the things that I stated: surgical pain, bone pain, significant season-ending injury type pain, opioid connection and pain. And I get to learn about it in the span of several weeks, and not in the span of something that had to really catalyze and be used to teach me for a longer period of time. And so I'm sinking into that. I am savoring that. I am surrendered to the opportunity of this, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm just so grateful for the people in my life. And I think the last thing that I would share about this, another reflection that I have that I hope lands within those listening in whatever ways it needs to, is I've learned so many lessons about receiving, and how much tolerance you actually have to build within your body and in the way that you interact with your world to actually be in a state to receive, so good things can happen to you and goodness can find you. And this has been an opportunity for me to see how far I've come, because I share one of the stories I share in my book, Living in Wisdom, April 22nd, 2025. One of the things that I share in my book is a story about one of my first breakthrough experiences and being able to receive selfless kindness from another person. This story I had of having this incredible Good Samaritan stay with me once when I had to visit the hospital, and how triggering that was for me, but how much it healed my ability to receive forever. That was many years ago. And so through this experience, I've been able to see how far I've come and how I receive with ease. And when I tell you the floodgates have opened, I think this is like one of my first times I've ever really shared that something physical has happened to me on like social media. And physical stuff has been happening to me nonstop my whole life. But that's just not something I would ever share or think to share. And this time I just kind of shared. I shared a picture of me on the gurney, like getting rotator cuff surgery, like this is what's happening today. This is part of my life. And that was pretty much it. And when I tell you a flood poured into my life, a flood of roses, I received roses and flowers and arrangements from so many people I love, local and in other states. My sister Angela bought and sent me an ice machine. So many friends, like just meals after meals after meals, desserts, like breakfast, like my girlfriend Lauren sent me tacos. Like it was just so, all the things I love, y'all, like food and flowers, like come on, that is my love language for all time. And it just came in like nothing, like everything. And I just said, wow, I'm so comfortable with this. Like, wow, God, I get this and I get to heal. It's just been so special. It's been so special. And it's been so special to also know that receiving these kinds of things from people I love and respect and know, it's also because my spirit is deserving of it, because I am showing up in community in all the ways that I can with these people. So it is their pleasure, it is their happiness to do this for me, to bring me joy, to allow me to feel supported, to just make me smile, right? Because none of that can necessarily be changed. But the beauty that got to enter my life because I was already prepped and ready for it. I've just been letting myself really bask in it. And so as I'm kind of figuring out how to now shape the release of the book and how that will look and how I'll be able to show up and still, get my son to school and loving my baby and living my life, like I'm also taking these slow walks through my house of smelling roses and smelling flowers and just smiling at how rich the soil of my life is, how fertile the ground underneath my feet is. And I am grateful in the most profound ways. So I'm taking it slow. I'm being present. It might take me 30 minutes to get a shirt on, but why can't it? Why can't it take that long? There's nothing more important than this in this moment. So that is where I'm at on my healing journey, y'all. Again, thank you so much for just like all the kindness, so much kindness. And anybody that is watching this show and hurting in any way, but especially for my light warriors that also live with chronic pain or are having to go through initiations, through surgeries, or through diagnoses. You are not broken. You are not deficient. Your body is miraculous. And there is so much goodness that is still waiting for you. And whatever you need to do to feel like yourself, even for just a glimpse or a portion of the day, there's no more important work than you can do than feeding that. And then there's no more important work than you can do than stretching your capacity to be in patience with the beauty of your humanity and your human experience, with the beauty of your body. Healing is possible in the instances that it may feel impossible, that it may feel too big right now. I just really ask and imply with humility, because I don't know what anyone's walking through or how much it hurts. I can't know that. But I do just want to reflect, talk to God all day, every day about it. Do whatever you need to do to create more space, to find ways, even the tiniest, slightest smiles, to rev your spirit and your system. And do whatever is necessary, evolutionary, and valuable to feed your ability to be in patience with whatever is currently present. I offer that with humility because I know how hard and how isolating and how lonely it can be to be on a journey of physical pain. And I really implore everyone that finds themselves on that journey, do not take no for an answer from any of your doctors. Do not go silently. If you're around people that cannot hold space for your physical pain, and I want to extend patience and grace to both sides of that equation, because it is also hard to be in the hearing of things that you can't help or fix for others. But whatever way is necessary, find community. Whether it is with people in person going through what you're going through, or it's on Reddit and a forum, or wherever you happen to find yourself, but find a place where you can be fully expressed about what it is you're experiencing. And then, in addition to, and or if all else fails, do what some of the greats that have come before us have done, like one of my favorite muses of all times, Frida Kahlo. Find a way to make it art. If you can't change the suffering, find a way to make it purposeful. Find a way to make it art. Find a way to make it beautiful. Find a way to make your life beautiful, no matter what. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Thank you for listening. I will be announcing my book tour stops very soon. I am going to hit the road. I may not be able to do a lot of hugs, but I will be out in those streets. My book, Living in Wisdom, again, is out April 22nd. I would love it if you pre-ordered it. I also did the audiobook, which was a blast. I love doing it. So it's also available for pre-order on Audible and all the places you buy books. Living in Wisdom, Devi Brown. If you haven't yet checked out, we have a new cover of the podcast that I'm utterly obsessed with. Obsessed. It's giving yacht rock. I hope you love it. And if you haven't yet, I would just love to ask if you would go on to Apple and leave a 5-star review and share some words. If there is a particular episode that has moved you, if there is anything that you have connected with from me, from this show, I would just love it if you would please leave a review about what you love or like about this show or how it's met you on your journey. So if you could do that on Apple, YouTube comments are great too. And I will be with you next week. Big love. Namaste.